Afternoon, everyone. I know we have people both from Europe and North America, and hopefully someone from Asia here as well. In today's webinar, we're going to talk about how to reveal your hidden capacity. And it's not just a hidden capacity within a plant, but it's really a hidden capacity within all of manufacturing operations and manufacturing businesses. Today, I have Laurent Laporte with me, CEO of Braincube, and my name is Niels Andersen. But before we jump into the content here, Laurent, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Niels. Hello, everyone. So my name is Laurent Laporte. I'm a French engineer, industrial engineer, and I'm the co-founder of Braincube. We started the company in 2008. I'm currently the CEO. And Braincube is in an AI industrial platform that is helping people to go from process control to process steering by delivering the best potential instruction live to the worker to adjust their parameter to changing condition in manufacturing.
Thank you, Laurent. It's interesting because it's very aligned with what we're doing at LNS Research. So my name is Niels Andersen. I'm a principal analyst and research director at LNS. And I've only been with LNS for just over 3 years doing the analyst work, but I have more than 35 years of experience in industrial information and automation systems and now more operation systems and so on. And we're going to talk a little bit about what the companies do here, but it's so interesting how these two companies overlap. So Laurent, tell us a little bit about Braincube. Who are you and what do you do?
Braincube is a very special software provider because we're not coming from the OT world, we're not coming from the IT world, but we are coming from the manufacturing world. 3 manufacturing engineers heavily trained on production system coming from automotive business, from aerospace industry business. We were really passionate about production system, and we were using a lot of things like Six Sigma. And as the one that know about this, Six Sigma is a project mode type of improvement initiative. But at the time in 2005, 2010, it was difficult to complete the project because we were having difficulty to get access of the raw data, and the only technology for data mining were based on quite difficult statistical analysis and requiring long training on different solutions. So we saw an opportunity with my colleague to digitalize Six Sigma with the vision that one day, if we are capable of solving a lot of problems and making this very easy for any process engineer, any manager, one day we would be able to develop this as not a problem solving that really analyze what happened, but more a prescriptive solution where we will be able to provide instruction live that will avoid the problem. So that's what we have been doing since 2007. We have customers in 45 countries. We work with very specific verticals that generate a lot of information and are facing productivity challenges. Our biggest market is North America, then Europe, as you can imagine. And since few years, we have started to implement the ambition of the company, and we are delivering this AI on our platform that adjusts the production conditions to the changing conditions, and we are making a big difference on that.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, Laurent. We see you quite often in industries where we have what we have web converting. I think we refer to it quite often, but membranes and paper, building products, roofing products, where you have the correlation of upstream and downstream data and analysis of that. So looks like one of your strengths. You can see that in the customer map as well.
In the verticals we are active, the product is long and difficult to manufacture. It requires different steps. It's mostly continuous process, can be also batch process, but the products are really complicated complex to manufacture. And what we do is we have decided a long time ago that the level of information we collect through the OT and IT system is not enough to answer to all the questions we want with machine learning. So one of the things we do, and is probably quite unique, is we build product clones of every manufactured product, meaning like we trace and track all what happened to this product during its manufacturing process. And at the end, at the product level, we capture the cost and the variability of what happened during the process, and we build this new data set, just the product, with thousands of descriptors. And so we build technologies that are capable to help us to understand how to minimize the variabilities that are impacting us, or to maximize the opportunity of improvement we have. And that's very specific to do in Braincube. So we are very active on, as you say, the vertical you mentioned, building materials, pulp and paper, but also a lot of chemical, oil and gas, mining and metals, and everything that we transform materials as rubber, as metal, as glass. Well, like, it's complex, it's difficult to predict, it's almost impossible to model. So we need to have a different approach to make it happen. And we have 17 years of experience on that, with fantastic customers and a lot of stories everywhere in the world.
That's great. You mentioned you're an engineer. I'm an engineer as well. I love these stories. So, by the way, if there are any questions as we go along, feel free to put them in the chat. We will do our best to answer that in the chat, and hopefully we'll have some time at the end where we can also take some Q&A, depending on how this moves forward. I want to just quickly introduce who LNS Research is as well. You know, we are an industry analyst firm, and we have three types of clients. We call them members. The primary members are actually manufacturing companies. We helping typically Fortune 1000, so large manufacturing company, global manufacturing companies, to have a mission to a world where these industrial companies are agile, autonomous, sustainable, profitable, growing, productive, and so on. And our goal here is to help them to transform. So help them how to set the goals, help them how to transform, how to put in the right operating models and choose the right technologies associated with it. Then we also work with technology companies like Braincube. And our primary focus here is actually helping the end manufacturers. And finally, we're working with investors, typically venture capital and also some private equity, to help them identify investment opportunities, both areas and individual companies. So
yeah, it's key for us to work with a company like you. We like to work with you we have been doing it for a while, because the world is easily confused about all the messaging we're sending. So we really work with you about positioning, to find the people that are needing us, that are looking for us, and to make sure they understand what we're doing. So you're a great partner and media for us to improve this positioning, which is key today to clarify what's going on.
Yeah, thank you, Laurent. And I think we have the advantage that we have the same goal. We all want to help manufacturing, both individual companies and global manufacturing, become better. So a little bit about the topic, the growing gap between reality and operations. You know, we have, looking at manufacturing today, you know, there's a lot of challenges. So they have rising costs, tightening margins, uncertain supply chains, changing worker landscape. You know, a lot of challenges. And, you know, we see also interesting development in organizational cultures. We see the power of the CEO, the chief operating officer, or the VP operations, chief supply chain officer, and the collaboration that person had with the CFO, the chief financial officer, and also the CEO, and in order to create a business model that everything fits together and be able to optimize, not just within a machine or production line or plant, but actually across the whole enterprise in order to do things better. And we see the need for driving predictability and be able to adapt to changes externally. So I know, Laurent, if you can comment a little of that and some of your thoughts around that. We're going to dive into the details here as well, of course, later.
Oh yeah, for sure. The variability, when we were talking about variability, starting with Six Sigma a long time ago, was clear. We were targeting to reduce impactful variability inside the workshop. But today, the variability that impact the productivity of a company is coming from the inside and the outside. Economical changing condition, on the market, everything you buy can go up and down very, very quickly. And also the condition of selling your product, competitions coming in. So your productivity depends on an equation that is becoming more and more complex. And we see it because when we started the business, we were addressing to people coming from operation, plants, Six Sigma team, continuous improvement team. Today, we keep on working with these people, but we went up to the strategy level. The people that are interesting about what we are providing and doing are more today the CEO and the CFO, because they are in charge of finding the future ways of running their organization to address this very, very critical variability and to find the best way to transform their organization and to maintain or improve their productivity.
Yeah. So just to dive a little bit deeper into that, what we see, so throughout LNS research, we're doing a lot of research discussions with large companies. We have our CEO council where we engage the chief operating officers and help develop the chief operating officers on their role in organization. And we also do survey-based analysis. And what we're seeing is that the world is changing. And unfortunately, what companies are struggling with is that the operating model has not changed. And we see that we talk about the workforce. A lot of people are retiring. We see new generations coming in with different background. A lot of young people have lost a lot of their social connectivity through the COVID or Corona years. And it is definitely a changing landscape. People want to work from home and lots of things going on. We see that the asset and product complexity is going on. The products are becoming much more advanced. We see a drive towards autonomous systems that also is driving the need for technology. And then the growing supply and a certain supply uncertainty at risk. We've seen this for a while, from the issues we had in the Suez Canal with COVID disruptions to tariffs, to just this changing landscape, the geopolitical information. And then finally, one of the big things that both is an opportunity and a challenge is really around AI. We see an enormous adoption of AI and capabilities within AI tools, both inside products and across whole organizations. And one of the things, one of the observations we've done from our CEO council is that, in the past, I think manufacturing was viewed as quite static. It was just like, you just keep it right, maintain it. But standing still isn't neutral. If you stand still today, you are going to keep dropping behind. And in the end, you're going to be so far behind your competitors that you may not have a way to catch up. So it's really important to be on the front line. Any comments around that, Laurent?
Yeah, one of my favorite question asking to my customer and their management people when I go there is, what is your current turnover in your teams, and when did it change? And the typical answer I get from a lot of different regions in the world is almost the same. That means before COVID, they were mentioning like 10%, 12%, depending on their location, if the plant was well located or not. They have good or bad numbers, but it was about this. Today, I receive a lot of answers like 30 to 40%. I was in Brazil last week. I was in a region with 3 giant cities of multi-billion people with plenty of industrial places there. And I was one in the top food industry, a Japanese company, plant, one of our great customer. And they are facing this situation, even if they are well located, if they give a lot of good benefits and they give good conditions of work. These plants are fantastic, they are modern and thing. And it's true also for the engineers and the support. So we see this as a credible new variability coming in very, very fast. The lack of experience, longevity into the job. And we see also the lack of staffing in plenty of places. It's not true for every plant. So the customer are moving to different models where you can have today in giant food industry, many places where they just have production people, the supply chain around, to run the thing, and the technical support as maintenance or something like this. But you don't have anybody that is really trained on the process. They do it from the distance. Their experts are located very far away, and they are in excellence center. And today they cannot operate without having an IT infrastructure and a lot of tools to be able to jump on what's going on, not according to their perception, according to what the system are telling them to do. So a lot of changes, as you described, if you don't change your production system today. And the funny thing, if we look at it, everything we have built as human in production system, from Taylor and rational instruction, and then the SPC, and then later automation thing, everything is still true, but we need to keep on using them while changing the way we work. And this is why sometimes it's really confusing.
Yeah, it is. It's jump to the next slide here. Just to comment on that, we see a lot of it in the past. We talk about industrial grade, and that was high, but the expectation now with people coming into the workforce and how they're using apps that are easy to use. We want to create software experiences that are really easy to use, and it's like consumer grade plus is almost better than industrial grade in the old days. We really need to create things where everything fits together and the users can just navigate within a system. So let's talk a little bit about the CFO and the CFO's mandate. Our research really shows the role of the COO and also in collaboration with the CFO. What are you seeing here, Laurent?
So as I said, we talk more and more with CFO, which was unexpected a few years ago. But why we do that? In fact, today with all this connected plans and all this data, it opens something new and powerful for these people. What I mean by this is, what was the job of the CFO is to collect information and make sum and averages to make a report at the end of the month and to control if it's according to our budget, according to our expectation. So actually, this way to do accounting is killing the variability. And what we can do today on part of the cost, the one that are not fixed, but the cost we spend along the time, we can have a live cost measurement. By doing that, we reveal where is the variability of expenses. Are we wasting energy because it varies a lot during a day? Are we wasting things? Are we having a difficulty to adjust of changing conditions or new mix of materials? So the CFO is building today a productivity ambition for his company based on the variability almost live of what's going on in the plant and not based on average that has a trend, good or bad. That's opened a lot of new opportunity for improvement and new challenges, but challenges where we're not ready to see that. It's becoming, for example, non-acceptable to drive your equipment by not adjusting to some parameters that change and you don't really control, but that put pressure on your cost. If the temperature or the moisture has an impact on what you do in cold temperature or high temperature, and you still run your equipment on the same average, in fact, you are wasting two opportunities. First one is to compensate, for example, the low and the cold temperature things, or not to use the best conditions. So our processes has been run with the mindset of reset, recipe stories, and startups. And today, what we should look at is how do we drive them by steering, everything we can to adjust and to reduce this all the waste and embrace the potential improvement. And the CFO understand today that there is this giant opportunity and it's complicated and it will be done if we make the right decision in terms of ambition, systems, and changing the way we operate.
Yeah, no, it is interesting. We're going to dive into some of these details again later. But one of the things that we have observed within our research is, in the past, it's all about just choose the right technology and you'll get there. And there's no doubt that technology, in particular software and sensors and actuators and control systems, are all very important. But we see that the biggest issue is a coherence problem, which really is a communication problem, an information problem, a data sharing problem. So the common belief is that you just go and do continuous improvement, add some discipline for that, add some money to run projects, and that will give you productivity. And what we're seeing is that It's much more than that. You have to expand the envelope of what you're looking at. So you have to start off with your strategy. You have to like say, what is it that you want to be as a business? And then you have to look at operations, say, how do you transform? And then you have to go in and say, how do I build an architecture? And it's both a software architecture, hardware architecture, and organizational architecture in order to do that. And then that leads into building an operating model that can do real-time optimizations, process optimization, business optimizations by looking at both inputs and outputs and goals and stated incentives. And then, of course, you have to use AI. There is no way around that today. You have to use AI. And it's not additive. It's actually multiplicative across this. That will give you productivity. That will give you the financial results that a CFO and a CEO is looking forward to. So it's not a lack of effort. It's lack of coherence. And then there's a lack of focus on driving advantage. It's not about having a checklist of doing all the right things. It's about being able to understand what is it that's going to move the needle and then deliver that outcome. So if we go into the hidden capacity in real time here, Laurent, I think you touched on some of these things earlier, but maybe we want to dive into it a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, as engineer, we're a tendency to quickly switch on the side of the tech. You know, when the AI is coming, we want to understand what it is before you really see the value behind the things. What I think today, every new, as you mentioned it, every new strategy and transformation should lead us to identify what we want to accomplish as a value. The tech decision will come when we'll see the value. Let me position one of the value we address with Braincube. And I really mentioned it a little bit, but you are running 24 hours, 7 days, a large and difficult production line, multi-steps, batch or continuous process. And you give in the hand of your operators, interesting stack with from the machine, the automation, regulation, supervision, historian, and you give them a lot of targets to reach, and these people has to run this operation. So what has been done in the past with everything we did is to try to help them by giving them a way to control the process with recipes and things. Today, what we do and what we propose for the last few years, it has been a massive shift is supporting, as you said, this transformation and the operating mode by delivering with AI and this very specific AI, something that add a lot of value. We give a real-time process optimization that comes as an instruction that has been generated live by adjusting to changing conditions. It's quite simple. That means you have to run your process with your recipes, but inside the recipe at this one moment with what's going on, there is one good setting for key variables. Not all of them. Some are really already under control as good. So what if AI is capable of telling you the minimum things you have to do now that will maximize, your outcomes? And that's exactly what we do. We came from identifying, the variable that have an impact on your process and selecting the one we want control and improving the recipes and making better averages to leveraging also the variable you cannot control that will assess what's going on in the reality to be able to give you the right recommendation. Let me give you an example, very, very practical. I'm coming from a customer that is having a challenge. They are manufacturing a food product, which is a powder, and they fill, this pack of powder, and we buy a kilo of this, for example. But when we open the box, the level of the powder in the box can be high or low for the same weight. It just depends on the moisture that the powders get in it. When you're a consumer like me and you open a box, you want to see it full. So they get a lot of reject or non-satisfied customer, even if they sell the right quantity. So they have a lot of giveaways because they decided to increase the level of the powder, whatever, the weight, which is really bad. And they know it's easy for them to do it, to do the right level in the summer. And it's difficult for them to do the right level in winter because of temperature and moisture. So They are smart, they are advanced, they use already tools, advanced analytic tools, and they found out that three conditions were, were really affecting what they were doing, and they have 7 levers of action. So they build 3 scenarios and they switch from scenarios. When we set up the system and started to work with them, we said, okay, actually, with all the measurements you have, we can identify not 3, but 29 measurements that has an impact you don't control on your process, but that tell us something. And you don't have 7 levers to action, you have 21. So by playing with 29 variables that describe what's going on and having an optimizers based on an AI-driven algorithm that tell you what is in between this 21 parameter you can adjust, what are the ones you should consider now? We saw this customer struggling in winter, beating the record of summer by just following these instructions.
Wow.
And so we did better than ever. And that's what's going today. All this instrumentation, all the things are not here for only solving problems. They're really here to exactly do what you say, transform the operating model and support live the difficulty of steering a process and not just controlling. And this type of story can be applied, in everybody that is measuring live what it's trying to achieve, and he knows it is affected by changing conditions, and he wants to make it super simple for his workers. That's one example of a way to save a lot of productivity by maximizing the yield and the usage of your equipment without changing anything, but receiving instruction that's made a lot of things that are self-explanatory, that are self-adaptable, not coming from models that will break in the future, but just from an AI machine learning based on the past experience.
It's so interesting. There's so much insight here. The notion of giveaway, which is, goes straight to the bottom line. It's like anything you put in that you don't get paid for, it increases your cost of goods sold. And I know it's definitely important. And another thing that I think is interesting as well is like how adapting to the factors. Like a recipe typically is based on a product you will make. You will have a recipe, and then the recipe will have a formulation, a procedure, and everything in order to achieve that. But what most recipes don't take into account is the feedstock, the information, the material to go in. So in here we have a picture of a paper machine, and it could be the fiber length, it could be other elements. I've done a lot of work in agriculture-based food and beverage, and we've seen even allowing the operations to go and pick the feedstock that fits what they want to do and do annual planning. In agriculture, once harvest is done, that's all the materials you have, and you have to plan for that for your whole season. And it's a completely different type of operational challenge than what we have today. That is just like what had been in the past, I would say, because we still have it, where it's just like run the machine better. It's a much bigger thing.
I would agree. So many manufacturing businesses where just their raw material is so unstable. You mentioned the paper machine, but I have this customer that has 2 pulp type of pulp: the recycled pulp, and they have the pulp that they made from the wood, right? So imagine pulp made from the wood, depending on the price of the wood and depending on the price of the energy, because you need a lot of energy to extract the cellulose from the wood. So when the energy cost is low and the cost of wood is low, that's a fantastic pulp you can use. But when one of these the 2 factors are changing, it becomes a highly expensive pulp. On the other hand, you have the recycled fibers. Recycled fibers, we know how to treat them. It doesn't require a lot of energy, but it's a very, very versatile market. I mean, sometimes in Europe, we have way too much recycled fiber. So we pay the paper maker to consume them. Sometimes we don't have enough, so they have to pay a high price for this. And my customer, we're having a fixed recycled percentage of recycled fibers. And so they were very limited. So what we found with real-time process optimization, that they could be highly flexible for 20% to 80% of recycled fiber. So they would adjust their mix of pulp, according to the price, to the market prices, as we are doing in other business. And this will come to any kind of business. But you're capable of doing that only if you have a system that helps you to adjust on your machines the parameter according to what you are just processing. That's another example of what you said, Niels, and that's where we are going. That's what exists today. Yeah.
Yeah, there are so many opportunities, and we're now starting to talk about, I think, what's the core of the element here, which is how do you get into steering operations? Because, you know, right now we've had a lot of sensors and operations about the process itself, and I think we need to increase, for instance, our sensoring and measurements about the feedstock, so the characteristics of what you're consuming. And you also need to increase the sensoring of the quality output. We don't do that well enough yet. And then we have to be very careful. I see a lot of businesses, they go in and they pick their KPI in a very narrow scope. And, you know, if your KPI is that you should always have 20% recycled material, you know, you may miss the overall business objective, which is the financial output given a certain set of product characteristics that you deliver to the customer, or quality you deliver to the customer. And given the conditions such as energy prices or availability of raw materials or other aspects, will change your operation beyond just what you would do on a machine in the past. So it's very good. So, you know, in our research here, and we combine this is US numbers, so I'm sorry for the European attendees here, but this is something called total factor productivity out of the US Department of Labor. And we have an equivalent index that is our industrial productivity index. And we analyze about 700 companies, global companies, the 700 large companies. And we analyze what are they doing and what are the outcomes and what type of productivity gains are you're looking at. But what we've seen here since about 2010, 2011, is that there's been a steady increase in productivity in non-farm business. So that's the one you see here. But then we go in and look at manufacturing related. So this is manufacturing, and then we have durable goods and non-durable goods. Within it, we actually seen not just a flattening, but a decline in here. And what we're challenging is that we need to think different. And yes, there's other elements here where you know, manufacturing to some extent have been squeezed by other parts of the supply chain. But the interesting part is that when we analyze these companies and we identify the ones that are more productive and can deliver results, we see that they have completely different outcomes. So here's a comparison between what we call the world's most productive companies, that they're the 100 best performing based on a sort of criteria around productivity growth. And then we have their financial results, and we see that they have significantly higher operating margins of 12.4 to 15.9, which is 28%, and significantly higher net income ratio, significantly higher return on assets, and significantly higher return on invested capital. And I'm sure that any CFO that looks at this will say, well, I want some of that. And then if you look at what are they doing different, you know, they're much more likely to have an operating model, something that allows them to be in the driver's seat to steer. They have a steering wheel, an accelerator, and a gas, and they can see the map and they can navigate and run their business. But it's not just about financials. We also see they're much better on not having safety incidents and fatalities. And they are much more also likely to go in and align operations and look at it strategic and align with their business. So any comments on this, Laurent? Or?
I think we are living a very special moment. That means we, as engineer, and we have worked in large organization, or we build our own organization. We're trained through project mode improvement. You know, the continuous improvement, the long-term improvements are all based on project. And this means we make an analysis of a situation. We project in the future, and we said, okay, we get to reach this point. How to make it happen? We gather a team and we said, let's work, and so let's make trial and things. This project mode based is like non-continuous. And in fact, today, what AI is bringing is breaking this model. I mean, the new operating system cannot wait for opening a project and coming back with a solution, because when you come back with your solution, maybe you don't have the same problem to solve. So what we are living here is in any part of the organization, and what I know the most is how we manufacture. Today, the idea is not to have a quality team that weekly look at what happened and how much parts we scrapped and blah, blah, blah. The idea is today is to be obsessed by setting up a system that makes sure we lively minimize the chance to generate the scrap. So we are entering in a new era for me, where we are replacing the old type project mode by real-time operation. And we are changing the way, as we said with the CFO, do the accounting. Instead of looking at the average and a slow moving, vision of what's going on in the company, today we can have live information. We can predict that something is changing, so that needs adaptation. So we are at a moment where I believe the way we were conceiving the staff is changing. The staff that does not adapt, some of this practice will become expensive and inefficient, and will not will not be helpful in solving these new challenges that are coming. So for me, we talk about new operating model, and I think this new operating model are breaking the way we address improvement in the past. Improvement comes today as a continuous, a permanent, solution model based on AI, and not something where we make step improvement anymore. And that's the changes I see everywhere and with my customer.
Yeah, and we're getting towards a closing here. So great insights, Laurent. So let's talk a little bit what this means for how leaders run operations. What are you seeing? I mean, you mentioned a lot of it in a previous slide, so maybe I should have this slide here up. But is there anything else you want to talk about within that concept?
Well, if we summarize a little bit what we have said, the variability we were fighting for to become a productive, highly productive manufacturing organization in the 90s or at the beginning of this century, in more stable environment, is not longer the way to make the highest productivity. So we have to know about this. We have to adapt to all kind of variabilities. And today, the data are helpful to measure this kind of variability. And we should be obsessed by identifying where is the value we should capture, to design our architecture, to select our system based on that. If our problem is to have 40% of turnover in our production people or in staff people, we need to be able to compensate that, and not just to wait and lose all the knowledge of the company. So we should architecture a system that will make sure that the system is having more knowledge than the team, and the team is learning from the system. And when the team is trying something new, what it's doing is giving conditions for an extra learning to the system. So everything we will do will be captured. And I think in this discussion, we have thinned this mindset of looking for value that delivers the productivity everywhere, is starting from CEO and CFO that should run the company with a high frequency information base, I think, then and drill down to redefine the challenges that their people should address today. And that's fantastic, because we talk a lot about data like 10, 20 years ago, but today it's not about this. It exists everywhere. It's how smart we are to embrace the technology that help us to adapt to what's changing, and to reduce, minimize, or get rid of all these hidden efficiencies that at the end make us way less productive, as your graph were showing.
Yeah, it is great. I just want to summarize a little bit before we open up for questions here. So what we see in our research is that we see four primary imperatives for we are very focused on the COO. We talk about the CFO here, but first of all, like the imperatives we see, first of all, is our industrial operation strategy. So it's understanding that operation is strategic and it needs to be aligned with overall business. And you need to understand, like, you can't just pick a KPI before you understand what the business objectives are. And then the integration across the value chain. We also see industrial transformation because we know where companies are, we know where they're going to be, And if you want to do that, you need to have a program to transform. It doesn't happen automatically. Meaning transforming is different from operating. And I know we see also companies need to be transforming almost continually, but there's definitely some step changes that need to be in here. And our research show that the pivot from vision to value is absolutely critical. You can't just go and create lighthouse plans. You go and create a plan for how you're going to change your business and implement the right things, both operational, digitally, technology, people, process technology, and then roll that out so you get the business value within itself. Then down on the left-hand side, we see the importance of the operating model. It's the thing that comes up with our CEO discussions all the time. It's how are you actually running the business? How do you get in the driver's seat? How do you hold on to the steering wheel? How do you drive this forward? And we see, the engagement with the associates and the employers, the future industrial work is important. The establishment of the pillars of excellence of what your company wants to be good at. And we see a lot of companies being successful. Of course, it varies by industry, but taking something maybe like a Toyota production system and then adapting it, not just adopting it, but actually making it theirs. We see it in companies like GE, aerospace with a flight deck. It's one example of how they've done that. We also have great examples from AB InBev and others where they really have transformed their businesses. And then finally, it's about, we call it intelligent supply network, and it's really about the software architecture, the pieces, everything that helps you be better, and software that changes it from like feed the beast of the ERP of yesterday to something that is embedded into your daily operations, helping people be successful, having the right applications, having the right AI agents, having the right decision intelligence, and then be able to combine automation and autonomy, because we see automation being very deterministic, precision-driven, whereas autonomy systems like large language models and AI, being able to handle more cases that are unpredictable in nature. And of course, they have more of a deterministic outcome. So thank you so much for the conversation, Laurent. I don't know if you have any comments on this before we go to questions.
Oh, just a final word. When you say adaptation and no more adoption, I think you summarize what we have said today. It's all about being able to adapt. And in manufacturing, it's even more than that. The changing conditions are all the time, so we need to adapt in real time. So real adaptation for manufacturing and not just adoption, as you said, summarize, I think, very well in very few words. The ideas we discussed today, Niels, together. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you for the conversation. And so let's go now. We have to do a little bit of a switch over here. So I hope Marissa will take care of that. But if there's any issues, thank you so much to all the attendees for being here. If not, we'll see you on the other side when we have the Q&A. Thank you so much.